Before the days of direct debit and smart meters, online payments and a myriad of electricity companies all competing for your custom by stopping you in the street or in the precinct or even cold calling you at home, we had just two boards, they were called, the gas board and the electricity board. And believe it or not, they did a lot more than what people think, or we may have forgotten. Before privatisation, which was promised to offer us more choice, better services, lower costs, what did our gas and electricity suppliers look like? That's what we're going to talk about today. How we paid our bill, how we contacted the boards, and much more. So let's get on with it. The electricity board and the gas board. Let's look at some history of the gas board and how it came about. From the year 1900, Britain had no less than 1,062 private gas companies, which was overseen by the councils, until Clement Attlee, the British Prime Minister, in 1948 nationalised the industry in the UK, which by 1949 it was nationalised with 12 regional gas suppliers, as we will all remember well as the Gas Board, more referred to as simply British Gas. The gas Britain consumed for lighting, heating and cooking before 1967 was known as coal gas, which compared to natural gas, which was phased out between 1967 and 1977, was more toxic, with a higher carbon monoxide output than the more efficient and safer natural gas. Natural gas is more cost effective. British people relied more on gas in the earlier part of the 20th century for energy, as many households didn't even have electricity supplies at all, and it wasn't all that long ago, to be honest. Many people will have memories of their grandparents or even their own parents talking about gas mantles for lighting in their homes and even their streets, and being afraid of electricity being installed into their homes. Before we move on, though, about our utilities and our homes in the 1970s, a short history recap is important about our domestic electricity supply in the UK. Well, to begin with, there was a battle between using AC and DC, alternating current and direct current. We'll call it AC and DC. Alternating current is produced to give a positive and negative output, so you got positive, negative running. That was technical, wasn't it? Whereas direct current was an even flow of positive electricity. The winner was AC, because it was easy to step up or step down using voltage transformers. Also, AC, alternating current, if accidentally touched, will throw a person away. It'll jolt them if a live source is contacted, but if you contact a live DC current, it tends to clamp and cling. So what we do is we just build in adapters in our electrical systems, our items like our tellies and stuff like that, to convert AC into DC. Lights, light bulbs and motors are okay with alternating currents. Up until 1947, voltages in the UK varied between 200 and 250 volts. But 240 volts and 50, I think it's HC megahertz or cycles per second, was the chosen standard household delivery. Let's face it, was needed. Although through the 1920s electricity power stations were springing up all over the country, it wasn't until 1935 when all power stations throughout the country were connected. Thus, we had the national grid. At one point, there were 600 different independent electricity suppliers in the UK. But in 1948, nationalised electricity was implemented, which was then called the British Electricity Authority. By 1947, we had 14 nationalised electricity boards. Many will remember the MEB, the LEB, the YEB, just the electricity boards with Midlands or London or Yorkshire. So there we have it. The gas board and the electricity board is all set. In every town, there was a place that you could walk into personally to pay your gas and electricity bill face to face from the 1920s onwards, but as the decades went by, they offered much more than that. That personal service of taking in your quarterly bill and paying it in full, cash or cheque, with a heavy stamp on your bill that said the word settled. And you were done. You had the knowledge that the staff were there indeed to have an interest in solving your bill issues. Not only that, but it was a showroom featuring gas cookers, electrical appliances throughout, depending on which utility you were paying. Sales reps there to explain and showcase all items which could be paid for right away, or you could pay on terms, by the cost which was broken down simply over your next forthcoming bills. Bit of an HP, but you paid it on top of your electricity or your gas bill. Cookers, vacuum cleaners, heaters, washing machines, you name it. Not at the lowest price, granted, but affordable payment plans made these items accessible to many people in such need of appliances with no interest. And there were showrooms, all gleaming white fridges, matching kettles and toasters, quality on carpeted floors, prices that included HP rates, actually on the labels, staff that demonstrated the item that had proper product knowledge and that tangible feel of seeing the items and the dimensions and the colour choices right in front of you. As long as you had a gas or electricity account, you'd be successful in obtaining this credit. Priority bills, they call them now. You received your gas and your electricity bill by post, followed by a reminder or a red bill, which meant you had to get your skates on and get it paid, because you'd get cut off, and there was no alternative supplier in those days. But there was an alternative for people struggling, or those who preferred to say, pay as you cook or pay as you light your house. There were coin meters, shillings to begin with, then 10 or 50p coins later on in years. It was simple. Put your coin in the meter, turn the slot, and that was it. Your power was on. But the downside was there was no backup. There was no emergency fallback supply. Once your meter had ran down, you were in darkness. The plus side was you had no bill, just an invoice. And on collection day, when the gas or the lecky person came along to empty your meters, you could even get an overpayment refund. As the mid-80s approached, prepaid meters were changed to electricity cards or plastic keys for the gas, which could be purchased from the showrooms, which was safer than the old coin meters because sometimes they used to get robbed, or even indeed the collecting agencies were a victim of muggings. By this time, electricity meters of this type had an emergency button, which gave the customer extra time to buy a card or a token without the supply being interrupted. It kind of put you in a negative reading and it was paid off when you refilled the meter with your cards. Gas meters had no such facility at the time. Problem was, if the showroom was closed, you couldn't buy any cards or keys. Does anybody remember how the meter used to punch tiny little dots in those cards and they could only be used once? And when they failed to work, disaster, especially if it happened overnight. Customers were given the opportunity to have payment cards. They were like a credit card shaped thing, which would allow you to make weekly or monthly payments towards their accounts, which was also processed at your gas and electricity showrooms. Complaints and questions could be answered in these shops in person. Your bill could be explained as well as any other problems being solved or reported by speaking to an actual person. Sure, there was often a queue, but not as long as those call centre queues. And they were not too far in the distant future. In some showrooms, engineers and repair professionals were all arranged by the staff there and then. Mind you, I'm going to tell you a little story. Please don't thumb me down. I remember walking into a gas showroom in the 1980s, and there was a man, and he shoved right past me and basically shoved himself to the front of the queue. And I remember him saying, "Are you going to move my effing radiator coverings?" Apparently he'd had some new radiators fitted in, central heating, and they forgot to take all the cardboard coverings away. So the woman said, "You need to go to the other queue." Well, by that time, I'd joined the other queue, and he pushed me again, straight out of the way. Said the same thing to this woman, and the woman politely turned around and said to him, "I'll tell you what, give us your number, Mr. Whatever your name is, and we'll call you for an interview. Oh, sorry, call you for an appointment. Well, I kind of remembered the number. So I went home, I rang the number, and I said, is that Mr. So-and-so? My name is Mr. Bavington from the gas board. I understand you want your boxes removed. He went, yeah, it's about effing time. So I turned around and says, why don't you get those boxes and ram them where the sun don't shine? I didn't stay on the phone long enough to hear his cursing. All I can imagine him is walking into that gas showroom, really losing it. That was naughty, was it? Should I edit this bit out? I'm not too sure. Anyway, moving on. As privatisation came along for the gas in 1986 and the electricity in 1990, these shops, still called showrooms, began to change rapidly. With the competition from other stores like Dixon's and Comets, plus other independent retailers, white goods disappeared from the gas and electricity shops. Credit was easier to obtain from larger chains, so it spelt the end of the showroom as we knew it. But you could still pay your bills there. You could still make inquiries in the high street face-to-face in what they were now calling energy centres. But as cost-cutting came about with privatisation, the centres were on the decline, with alternative methods of paying bills such as direct debit. Telephone contact call centres were all being set up. Now, direct debit from your bank account of the payee had actually been around since 1970, but very few people at the time used it. Maybe trust issues, or moreover, very few people had bank accounts. This began to change. The last energy high street centres closed its door in 1999, losing 450 jobs, sparking the very end of face-to-face help that we always loved in those old showrooms. It was okay to pay your bill at the post office, but they couldn't answer your inquiries, could they? So no professional person to speak to. More private gas and electricity companies wanting your business, promising cheaper fuel. That's today. Some companies are online only, and direct debit is the only way to pay. It makes it cheaper, apparently. Had long call waits to chatbots and AI, which they call progress. I could still remember when those gas and electricity shops were up the high street and where they actually were. What are they now? Vape shops, barbers, or even shut up for good? Cookability, eh? I believe that was the beauty of gas. Oh, we're on economy 7.